Can you hear me? All right. Let's see. Check if you're on mute or not at the bottom. All right. So, if you can't see your mute button on the screen, let's see. Oh wait, one thing. Let me just double check. Let's see. Can you type in your chat to see if you can see the if you hit the unmute button? All right, I can see you in the chat. I'll just type something real quick. All right. Oh wait, let me see. There you go. All right. Can you hear me all right?
How's that?
All right. So it looks like we're about to get started.
And Victor, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. Is there a bit of an echo for you?
I don't hear, well, maybe a slight echo, but it's not annoying or distracting to me. Do you have an echo when you hear my voice?
Not when I hear your voice.
Okay.
But all right. Because I can hear myself from an echo, but I'm not sure if that's just me hearing the audio from my device.
Okay.
So
I mean, my roommate, my friend's in the other room talking on the phone, but I don't know if the microphone's that powerful enough to pick up her talking.
Well, I can hear you okay. So I guess we'll just start off.
Okay.
So let's see. For anyone in the audience, I am here with the Godzilla 98 suit actor himself, Kurt Carley. And then beforehand, just thank you for coming onto the show. It was a pleasure seeing you at the convention. How was the show? The rest of the show.
Oh, it was great. We met again on Saturday. You and your girlfriend came, and of course Sunday was Hurricane Hillary, and I went to the show on Sunday also and had a great time. Met a lot of interesting people, and very glad that I went. They did give. They told everyone, if you don't feel comfortable or safe coming to the show on Sunday because of the hurricane, you certainly don't have to show up. But when I woke up Sunday morning, it was raining a little bit. So I went to the show, and I'm really glad I did. I had a wonderful time and met some very nice people.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it went all right. Yeah, it was really raining hard that day. And I think I got a notification that they were letting in like certain people for free admittance.
Okay.
Just because of the weather.
Right. Yeah, I didn't hear that, but I certainly that would not surprise me.
Yep. And so we are going to go into the questions. I'm just gonna pull them up right here. Alrighty. And so here we got the first question. What is it that you do, and how did you come onto the Godzilla 98 project?
Well, a long time ago, I started in Little Shop of Horrors in New York City, and I was a temporary fill-in understudy for the show as the plant operator, as Audrey 2. And uh, because I did that, I on occasion worked with this puppet company in New York City, doing large puppets that your whole body was in. And I ended up doing Little Shop of Horrors around the country in a lot of summer theaters, like Civic Light Operas around the country. And then in 1996, out of the blue, um, because I had no idea that the producers of Independence Day were going to make a Godzilla movie. I was living in New York at the time, not in Los Angeles. I got a phone call about an audition, and so they wanted someone from Los Angeles, and it took a little cajoling on my part to get them to see me. So after cajoling them, I got a phone call a day later and said, "You have a meeting Thursday afternoon on with the producers of the movie." So that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of how I got hooked up with Godzilla.
All right. All right, so one second. I'm just gonna grab a mic, see if I can listen to the feedback a little bit better because there's an echo on my side.
Okay.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so hopefully I'll fix it. Anyone in the chat, let me know, and then I'll see if I can fix that again. But yeah. All right, so very interesting to see. So Godzilla 98 would have been your first film project, correct?
I was in a movie before that as an actor, but that was my first movie as a monster, unless you count the Godzilla movie I made with my friends back in like 9th or 10th grade. But a Super 8 movie. But yeah, that was my first professional playing a monster on film.
Mm-hmm. And so then, what was the audition process like for Godzilla?
It was a lot of well, first it started with an interview, and they told you what processes they were going to use to bring Godzilla to life, and they wanted to get to know you a little bit better, and then the first audition, come in and show us what your best Godzilla is like. They said, do not think the Godzilla. We do not think about the old Godzilla. Just it's completely different, and that's all we'll tell you. So that was great because it left you wide open for bringing things into the audition. So I did that audition, and as I've said before, there was a lot of jumping through hoops. It was a lot of do what you just did, but do it with your chest as low to the ground as possible. Okay, now go to the other side of the room, do that again, but do it with your chest as high off the ground as possible, but keep it parallel to the floor, and do that again. And then when we got to the final audition, prior to the final audition, they showed us the drawings and the maquette of what the Godzilla 98 would look like, which which really helped before the final audition, because then at least you had like a ballpark idea of what they were, of what it looked like, of what to go for. So, and that last audition was just um, more jumping through hoops, and just showing everything you can do, everything that I think that this drawing and model of Godzilla can do. And there was direction. The director would say, you know, do it this way, do it slower. Can you do it faster? Can you maintain this serpentine movement as you walk towards us? Um, but that's kind of what the audition was like, the audition process.
Mm-hmm. And so it was sort of like started out as giving you hints as to what it could have been. And then what was your reaction to the design you were shown?
I thought it was really interesting because, you know, for a couple of weeks, we were told, don't think of the traditional Godzilla. But they would never show us a picture. They would never show us a drawing, nothing. And so when you finally saw the statue of it, like, oh, okay, I see what you mean. This is not anything like the original Godzilla. And I remember, and of course, you know, we weren't allowed to take any pictures or anything like that. So I had a notebook and I tried to draw like a profile of it really quickly, just to get that in my brain even more solidly of like what it looks like. So when I went home before the final audition, I could really think about like, okay, what would this thing move like? What would it look like? What would it look like on a movie screen, you know, 20 feet tall, walking through a city, you know, and how does that translate to the audition?
Hmm. And you're also quoted as saying that you studied the movement of like reptiles and such. How did you incorporate what you learned into the performance as you went on?
I would say, you know, a small percentage of that was incorporated into the performance. But after the first meeting, they gave us a videotape of different reptiles moving as reference. And they gave me that tape and they said, okay, next time we see you, do your best Godzilla for us. And like I said, I had no idea what, you know, Godzilla looked like. And I asked the producer at one point, I said, so what are you looking for? And he said, we're looking for someone who will show us what Godzilla is like.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did, just because I didn't want to leave any stone unturned, I did go to the zoo and I went to the reptile cages and I made notes about, you know, body position and movement. And I watched that tape over and over again, the reference tapes and reference tape. But, you know, a lot of times the suit, even though when I auditioned, you know, they didn't have a Godzilla suit made yet, but after having done Little Shop of Horrors enough, I know that sometimes the suit will dictate the way some of the movements. Like you may want to do movement X, and sometimes you might be able to do movement X+1, but sometimes you're not going to be able to do movement Z. You're going to have to do Z-1. You'll get close, mm-hmm. but the suit is just not going to allow that. But I want to stress, though, that this suit was made as beautifully and as well as it could have been made. It was a real marvel to watch it being constructed from from the sculpture to the seamstresses and the mold makers. And actually, I haven't seen that picture ever. I don't think I've ever seen that picture before. So please send me a copy of that. But you know, that suit was custom made for me, so it was very comfortable. I can remember lying down on my side one time, and I think I fell asleep inside because I was cradled inside that suit because it was made so well.
Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to the suit, how much range would you say the suit had, and what you would see from maybe replays of your performance?
Well, what actually made it into the final cut of the movie were very short bursts, and a lot of the times we were shooting 420 frames a second on film, and so a lot of the stuff I did was me breaking through practical models like streets, city streets, sides of tunnels, sides of buildings, and that's primarily what we did with the mother Godzilla, and like this shot here that I'm looking at of breaking through Madison Square Garden. The, pardon me, and which I think maybe was green screen or orange screen, and then it was comped in with the actors in front. Um, yeah, I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm. And here's another shot, which is of street level.
Right. You know what? I'll tell you what. If you could send me these photos, Victor, I would really appreciate it, because I haven't seen these in more than 2 decades, and if you would do that, that would be very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Oh, of course, of course. And then here's another angle. I think I've shown you this card I had you sign for me.
Okay.
Of another angle of it.
Yes. That was almost, I think we shot that in August or September of 1997, as a matter of fact. So we may have shot that like on this day all those years ago.
Mm. And then here's another one that has your name on it.
Yeah,
Did
that's
you go into the like process of like going into the suit and how this would have gone onto your head.
Yeah, this was certainly my name is written on my skull cap, which is what I wore when I was in the costume, and the mechanics were attached to the skull cap. And that's another group of people I forgot, or the mechanics who figured out how to make all this stuff work. But yeah, so I had a chin strap that kind of like a football helmet, and then of course a custom made thing for my head, the skull cap, I guess you would call it. And because everything was made for me, and also the guys who played the baby Godzillas, to be as comfortable as possible. So everything was custom made.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then that as well, you also played one of the babies.
I played one of the babies, and I think in one of the scenes where the babies are eating popcorn or something, I think when you look at the screen, I'm on the right-hand side of the screen, and I have a maybe a tub of popcorn in the baby Godzilla mouth. But yeah, I played a baby Godzilla along with all the other guys who my Godzilla brothers, as it were, baby Godzilla brothers from the movie. Yeah.
And what would you say were the differences between playing an adult and a baby? What sort of changes did you have to do in between roles?
Different. And the baby, mostly the baby suits, we were bolted to the stage floor, which was a great move, because it made us very, very secure on our feet. And so you could do these crazy whip around moves where you could twist your body to the left and to the right, and you could feel very confident that you were going to fall over. So they chose to, a lot of the time, bolt us to the stage floor, because most of the shots were the main actors trying to run through us and away from us. And of course, we were preoccupied with other things. We'd just been born, just hatched out of the eggs and things like that. So but the mother, but and also in terms of scale, because when we were in the baby Godzilla suits, we were a 1-to-1 scale. So we were. This is exactly how big they are. The mother Godzilla, she was what, 220 feet tall, something like that. So there's the element of scale you had to think about with that, and then when you're working on the miniature sets, um, you have to consider the speed with which you do things, and and then also what lenses are they using on the camera, and then the frame rate and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm. And then, were you a part of these tests on the screen I have here
Oh yeah,
of
that's
when you were running?
yeah, that could be I could be one of those guys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is what we're looking. I think what we're looking at here is a lighting dummy,
Mm-hmm.
which they would roll in for lighting the scene.
I see. And so then, and then when it came to your performance as Godzilla, you were also quoted, and also has told to me that you first watched the Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, which
Yeah,
was your
yeah.
inspiration, correct?
Well, I don't. I wouldn't say inspiration. That was not the first Godzilla movie I'd ever seen. It was the first Godzilla movie I ever seen in a theater. Certainly, movies like Destroy All Monsters and Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. But yes, you probably heard that story when I was a kid watching um, Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, and I just sat there and I was like, "Well, I'm going to do that one day," and I ended up kind of doing that one day. So, um,
And what was that feeling like when you were finally on the set and doing your thing? Could you describe what you felt in that moment?
yeah, in a word, wow, because I was, when I saw Godzilla versus the Smog Monster as a kid, and I said I'm going to do that one day. This is not something I thought about every day. This is not something I wrote about every day. I didn't. I just put it in the back of my mind, and I thought about it every once in a while. Every once in a while. But then when I actually was on set, and with the miniature cars and the miniature buildings and everything, and it's like, oh, okay, here I am, but I got a job to do. So there was a little bit of recognition of, um, wow, I'm doing this, but I do have a job to do, and I
Hmm.
don't want to let people down.
And then when it came to that job, how did your performance of Godzilla affect your future roles and how you went into doing creature work?
Well, Godzilla was good for me in that I got to meet a lot of the top people in the industry, and they got to know me because I was brand new to town, and so I got some other jobs because of my relationships with the behind the scenes people who worked on Godzilla, and so that was a good byproduct of working on the movie.
Hmm. And then, and you've also did motion capture for the film, correct?
Yes, we did a lot of motion capture for the movie, and both as a baby Godzilla and the mother Godzilla. We even Nordic Track built a special uh, treadmill for us, a very big, wide treadmill for us to work on for like running scenes and things like that for motion capture. And uh, in the final product, I was told that there were no motion capture scenes used in the film, but I do know that in one of the fish trap sequences that I worked with um, the director pretty much let me do what I wanted to do. So when I went and saw the movie for the first time, uh, even though I was told that none of the motion capture made it into the final movie, I don't know if it was, I don't know how it worked, but like as I was watching these sequences that were CG, I said he's going to step, step, stop, look to the right, step, stop, look to the right again. I knew every movement that he was going to make. So, um, uh, so I don't, like I said, maybe they used it as a template or something, or but they're, yeah, I certainly knew everything Godzilla was going to do, and I had never seen the movie before.
Mm. So I guess that would imply that during keyframing they did use your work as perhaps a template or like reference for the
Right.
final cut.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm certainly not going to um, say for sure I can't. Look, I was told that they didn't use it, so that's fine. But I do know that I knew every move a lot of the moves Godzilla was going to make on the scenes that I worked with the director. We spent 8 hours working on a couple sequences, and and this is how I want to do it. And he pretty much let me do it that way. So when I saw the movie, like, oh, okay, that sure does look like me, but I was told it wasn't me. So I'll, that's the way it is.
And that would actually be pretty revolutionary because that is how the modern Godzillas have done things in recent years with the new Hollywood movies and the Toho movies. Using the motion capture as reference is always stated in the behind the scenes story. So this would be one of the first times that's done for a kaiju film.
Yeah. And I know when I did the panel this couple weeks ago at the convention, the guys who worked on the Godzilla movie, I think they said they did all their monster work in 3 days. And gosh, I worked on Godzilla for like full time, 9 months, back in 1997. So before the movie came out in 98.
And then speaking to that, were there any scenes that you filmed or remember that you sort of wished had made it in the film?
That is a great question, Victor. And right off the top of my head, no. I think there were some things I wish I could have done a little bit differently, but we had to do things because of time constraints. But I can't think of like, oh, we shot this great scene where I did this, and then when I saw the movie, it was cut. No, I really can't think of anything like that.
Okay, because I'm looking at the screen, and then here are some pictures of you in the suit. It looks like.
Yep.
And then I think in one of them, it looks like you're being suspended, or there's something supporting you.
I think they were. I think that might have been when we were trying to do a scene where I was plowing through a building at an angle, and because of the geometry of the costume, to help me, they had me attached to wires so that I wouldn't collapse as I went through the building, that I could keep like my chest in the right, or my head in the right vector going down, because certainly gravity wants to take you right down, so I think they were using that to help me support my body so that I could get the right angle to see if we can get this shot.
And then were there any unique challenges that came with wearing the suit? And were there any dangers that came with it?
I think the challenge wearing the suit was trying to keep the integrity of the creature intact, in that, like, so that when people looked at it, it always looked like a giant lizard instead of a guy in a giant lizard costume. So that was the big challenge. And I apologize. Can you remind me your second question?
Were there any dangers that came with the suit? Any stunts that would have been, dangerous?
There was only one thing that happened that was very brief. It was in August, and it was a very hot day outside, and we were shooting in the studio in the Mother Godzilla suit, and we were doing test footage of tunneling, tunneling, and so uh, they had me on this special rig, this sled that I was attached to, and they would push me through this tunnel, and I would pretend that I was tunneling through this tunnel. And once again, we were doing test footage, and so they shoved me through the tunnel. Well, they said action. They start shoving me through the tunnel. They say cut, and then they left me in the tunnel, and everybody went to go and look at video playback. But I was in the tunnel, and it was very hot. They got very hot very quickly, and they also were throwing in special effects, Mother Earth, to for dust, and so I think I couldn't communicate like, get me out of here. I'm getting really hot, and so that was that was just one day like I'm burning up, like no one can hear what I'm, So everything worked out. I'm still here. Everything's fine. But that was after that one take. I just, we got our system down, and so.
Yeah,
but that was the most dangerous thing I had to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a common story with Godzilla suit actors, with it being too hot in the suit at times.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was an extraordinary circumstance. I know another day, my friend Gary, who is in charge of our team, we were shooting something, I can't remember, and it was just hot. It was just hot, and I told Gary, I said, I'm getting hot. I feel like I'm in a toaster, and the heating elements are getting closer to me. And he said, we're done for the day. And and he said, we're getting Kurt out of the suit. He's too hot. And so he and the rest of my crew were very, very, very aware of taking care of me, and they always took very good care of me. So.
Oh, that's always good to hear.
Oh yeah.
And then speaking to any challenges or discussions of how to make the suit work. I did ask you this at the convention, and if we can go into a little bit of that for the stream. Were there any discussions about doing water scenes, like in the classic movies?
Yes, and we worked on. I don't ever remember anyone saying we're going to put you in the suit and then put you underwater. I don't remember anyone ever suggesting that or saying that. But in the motion capture studio, we were tasked with trying to figure out how to do a water thing, and we worked on it a little bit. I mean, ideally, what I wanted to do was have some rope strung from the ceiling, and then we would lay on the ropes so that we would be suspended, and then we could do the serpentine swimming motion, and the motion capture cameras could pick that up. The cameras that we were using back then, we could have done it on the floor, but I don't think it would have worked so well. That's why I wanted to be suspended from the ceiling. But I don't think it took too long before they took that away from us and gave that to the computer animators.
And so there was never a moment where they suggested, having you rise up from the water, like in this clip, which they did with the big animatronic. Like
right. I mean, there was a scene towards the beginning of the movie where Godzilla comes out of the water and he has like boats attached to him. If you remember that, that's me. I remember them having these little boats, these little tiny boats, and they were attaching them to the side of the costume, Um, and That's, I think, one of the first things where the Mother Godzilla, me as the Mother Godzilla, shows up in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they did do a little bit of work with you, but you were never in the water, right?
I promise you, never in the water.
Hmm. I remember you telling me how like you were like really no on the any water like above your chest or your
Yeah,
head.
I've worked on other movies around water, and I um, uh, like there's one thing to work like in a swimming pool, which is still can be potentially very
Hmm.
dangerous. It's another thing to be in the ocean, and I've worked on a couple projects, and uh, one of them I was playing this creature that comes out of the water, and I told the director way before filming, I said, I want to be very clear. Like, if you want me to like come out of the water, like completely submerged in the ocean at night at 3 o'clock in the morning, I said, find someone else. I'm not doing it. And he said,
Hmm.
no, no, no. I just want you like in knee deep water coming out of the water. And I said, that's fine. I'll do that. But too many variables within a thick foam latex suit that just absorbs water. And yeah, I want nothing to do. I want nothing to do with water up around my uh, head with no scuba apparatus or anything. I
Hmm.
mean, I've been in a water tank. I did a TV show one time where I was in a water tank for like 5 hours, but I had I had scuba gear on, underneath the mask, and I could breathe, completely, and it was a controlled environment. There's a great stunt coordinator, a foot above me, ready to pull me out, and if there's any kind of problem. So um, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, that's my thing about working in water.
Hmm. And then for anybody watching, the scenes on screen here were filmed on the Universal Studios lot at
Okay.
the Falls Lake area.
Yes.
So you can see
Coming
the
up
city
on the right hand
background.
side of the tram. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, so that if you want to visit any sets, you can always go to Universal and take the tour. They always pass
Yes.
by it.
Yeah, I remember when they were talking about shooting this, but we were too busy doing other stuff.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and then also with you being the title main character, and this was one of like the most advertised films like in the world. What was it like playing a character that was a secret to the public?
Oh, I was so focused on just trying to do the best job we could do, um, and I didn't have I didn't pay too much attention to the advertising. I certainly saw it. I remember being home and around Christmas time, and I saw like a Taco Bell commercial, uh,
Mm.
and seeing some of and then before like a few weeks before the movie came out, seeing the advertising. Uh, but it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's really pretty much all I thought about it. Like, that's cool.
Mm. Did you ever like have any discussions with colleagues or friends about, that's me, but don't tell anyone?
No, I didn't. Uh, I don't remember anyone ever saying like you can't say that you worked on this movie. You were not allowed to say what you did before the movie came out. That you signed those non-disclosure agreements, those NDAs. Um, but yeah, we were certainly not allowed to talk. I couldn't go home at night and say like, well, I shot the scene where I was in Madison Square Garden. I couldn't do that. Certainly after the movie came out, that was all right. But uh, I think at the miniature effects unit, there was a sign up one day that like, I don't know, Us Magazine, is trying to get in, and they want to, pictures, do not talk to anyone from this or any magazine or something about this movie. You've all signed non-disclosure agreements or something like that. I think that sign was only up for one day or so.
Mm.
Because, the miniature effects unit, not as glamorous as the working with as the movie stars, So maybe if I worked more with the stars of the movie more than I did, maybe I would have run into that more. But I really didn't encounter that much at all.
Hmm. And then after your first time seeing the film, what were your immediate thoughts of like how you did or how the film handled the character itself?
Uh, well, I thought the film handled it exactly the way the storyboards said it would. I thought it adhered to the storyboards very closely, and I, you know, uh, I was kind of removed from like when as I sat there in the theater and watched it. You're trying to like take it all in and like, oh, I think I'm coming up. I think this is me. And uh, oh, I guess that's definitely we shot that, but that's definitely CG, and that's uh, and yeah, I remember that day. But I was kind of removed from it because I just was kind of impassionately watching it, and then I went to the theater again. I think to because the first time I watch it, I'm kind of taking it apart. Like, I want to see like what where am I? What am and then the second time you go see the movie, like you enjoy it more, and
Hmm.
you're not so analytical.
Yeah. And then when it comes to what you did recognize as being you in the suit, what would you say was, your favorite shot that ended up making it in?
Oh, I really like this shot of coming out of Madison Square Garden, um, and there's a scene where I come through the side of a tunnel and then I turn and look towards the camera. I really like those couple scenes
Hmm.
uh, because especially going through that tunnel wall, that took a while to get it right because there's a lot of elements. The camera and the speed with which I'm being pushed through um, the side of the tunnel wall, the debris, the lighting. There's all those variables. So it took a
Hmm.
while to get that down um, because I didn't, they were pushing me on that sled through the wall. So I had no control over the speed, but I was in charge um, of the turning of the head and like doing it at the right speed and at the right time. And also, I I'm looking down at the floor, and so uh, I really can't. I have a very rough idea where the camera is, but um, uh, it's a matter of like doing a take and then look at the video playback. Like, okay, Kurt, you turned towards the camera too late, and then resetting those miniatures, takes a while. And once again, that miniature crew, they were great. I just really enjoyed watching them work and making all those things. But it takes a little while to reset everything properly. So yeah, there was a lot of uh, too soon, too late,
Hmm.
just right. You did it just right, but could you do it faster? Could you look faster towards the camera? You hit the mark, but so there's a lot of
Hmm.
variables. It's kind of like squishing uh, Play-Doh, in your hand or silly putty, And, so
And then speaking to you watching the video playback, could you describe like these mechanisms and like the sort of things that the suit could do and like how that influenced the performance?
the things the suit could do and how it
Hmm.
influenced the performance.
Yeah.
Well, there were some things that like Patrick Totopoulos, who designed Godzilla. You know, he would say like, Godzilla, like his elbows will always be close to his rib cage.
Mm.
So don't let your elbows, get too far away from your rib cage. So there were some things that like that's how that's a dictate, like this has to be done this way. and then of course, the suit, in Godzilla generally, like in this one picture where Patrick's holding my hands and I'm with my chest almost parallel to the floor. That's pretty much the position Godzilla worked in. So that was, like that's what we're going for. And so the suit would, the tail, where you're working with the tail that day, where you're not working with the tail. So that was a little bit of the suit dictates, in addition to the other things that Godzilla is supposed to look like, that you want it to look like. The suit also has its opinion too about some things.
Mm-hmm. And when it came to your like acting the different movements, were there any things you thought after the fact that you might have changed or tried to replicate?
There were a couple shots that I wanted to do differently, but I was aware enough, that we don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the luxury of time right now to redo this. So we're working on a sequence. It's not working out, and I'm told it has to be done this way. And I have an idea, like it could be done. I could get the same result, but done a different way. But we don't have time. We just don't have time. So I kept my mouth shut because I knew that my input at that point would be counterproductive. Our goal is let's make the best movie we can, and people with a lot more knowledge and a lot more power than I do, like, no, we're gonna go do this CG. Like, okay, that's the way it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess here's the look of you looking at some playback footage.
Yes, and that is Gary, my friend Gary, and who is head of our team. And yeah, we were. I'm leaning on what we call the prayer bench, and you can see a couple of handles sticking out of there. They custom made that for me, which was very useful and got used a lot when I was in the costume. So it take the weight of the costume off me. And we were shooting test footage with a video camera, and Gary was showing me what it looked like.
Mm-hmm. And then so this is something I ask a lot of people because we do have a lot of footage of them testing the baby suits.
Yeah.
But I've never seen any footage of the adult suit. Could you describe like what you saw and like what the performance was like on video camera?
It was most of the. We were in a empty room, and I know they laid down. I asked them to lay down at least some tape on the floor because once again, when I was walking as the mother Godzilla, for example, in rehearsal, you're pretty much looking at the floor, and so you can't see the horizon. So sometimes you might have a tendency to not walk in a straight line. Like Godzilla's supposed to walk in a straight line here, but when you just see the floor, and the floor is all, it's all one color. It's yes. So I asked them to put down a strip so that I had a center line, kind of like when you're swimming, in a competitive swimmer, they have that line for the swimmers to look at. That was my thinking. And then they wrote stop for me because I wouldn't know. Sometimes it's hard to judge how far you've walked or the distance, like they may say 10 feet. You have a rough idea how long 10 feet is, but you got a lot of things. Sometimes you're juggling a lot of plates at the same time. Wait, I mean spinning a lot of plates at the same time, not juggling a lot. Well, you can juggle plates. You get the idea.
Yeah. And then I believe it's also said that did they drill holes into the dewlap area around the neck?
Oh yeah, there was. That's where I looked through, and so there was holes in there, and it's just strategically placed holes with scrim over it, so you couldn't see my face. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and also you need to breathe, so oxygen came in through there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then
you
you
spoke
spoke
earlier
earlier
to
to
doing
doing
scenes in the
scenes in the
tunnels.
tunnels.
Could you
Could you
describe a
describe
little
a little
further about
further about
how they
how they
try
tried
to
to
shoot
shoot
that
that
and
and
your
your
movements in the
movements in the
tunnels?
tunnel? They the tunnel. First of all, those tunnels were great. They looked amazing,
Mm.
and they were built in segments. And then they were, as I remember, they were built in segments. So it wasn't one continuous piece of tunnel. It was chunks that were strategically placed so that on camera it looked like it was one long tunnel. Um, and I was told, Kurt, do this movement with your hands. And so I said, okay. So that's what we did. And once again, this was one of those things where we we just need you to do what we tell you to do, and
Mm-hmm.
then if it works, we'll keep doing it. If not, we'll come up with something else. So um, we spent, I don't know, a day or two in the tunnels working on. Working on the going through the tunnel stuff on the sled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's a little
and it's a little
squished, but there's
squish, but
also
there's
this
also
one
this
image
one
here
image here
where there's
where
like
there's
looks like
like
some sort
some
of
sort of
band around the
band around
mouth.
the mouth.
Were you in
Were
the
you in
suit
the
when
suit
this was
when this was
happening? Or
on my screen here, it's really blown up.
yeah.
I think what that is that is actually to protect the mechanics
Mm.
of the suit. I'm not a mechanic, but I think it had something to do with if you power up the jaw and if you turn on the remote control unit that operated the jaw and you had too much power to the jaw or something, you could do a lot of expensive damage to the mechanics. And
Mm-hmm.
so they would oftentimes put this band around there to prevent any potential damage to the electronics and the motors. I could be wrong about that, but I think I'm
Mm.
pretty close on that. But
Yeah.
that's why you see those black bands around the mouth, is to protect the mechanics and the electronics.
Ah,
Ah,
interesting.
interesting.
And then
And then
when it
when
came
it
to
came
the
to the
mechanics, were there
mechanics,
any
were there any
worries
worries
about
about
how they would
how they
work
would
with
work
you in the
with you in the
suit, like
suit,
in
like
case of
in
a
case of a
malfunction or
malfunction or
anything?
anything? No. I know it. Like I never even thought that these mechanics were going to go haywire or anything like that. They were so well designed and so well made and so well thought out. Uh, and I certainly trusted all the people who made them. But the mechanics were really marvelous uh, at how powerful they were, also because they could turn. Uh, I would have to coordinate with the person running the remote control. Like, Godzilla's going to look off to Godzilla's right, but they could. Those things were so powerful; they could uh, make Godzilla's head turn, and my head would turn with it. It was that powerful.
Mm.
Mm.
And I
And
believe
I
you
believe
told
you
me a
told me a
story
story
of
of
when
when
Roland
Roland
Emmerich was
Emmerich
trying to
was
get
trying
you
to get
to
you to
open the
open
mouth,
the mouth,
but that was
but that
something
was
that you
something
can't
that you can
control,
control,
correct?
correct? That is, yes. Yeah, Roland, he wanted me to, we were shooting the baby Godzillas, and he wanted me to, he came over and said hello, and he had I think a bucket of popcorn. He was like, and he said, Kurt, open the mouth. I was like, I can't. And open the mouth. It's like, I can't, Roland. And then someone had to tell him, oh, he doesn't control the mouth. Someone else does, So my puppeteer had to open the mouth for him.
Mm.
But yeah, that story. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
And
And
then
then
were there any
were there any
other
other
instances where you
instances where
had to
you had to
work out a
work out a
communication
communication
for certain
for certain
scenes or
scenes or
instances?
instances? Yeah, there was a scene where we were shooting with baby Godzillas on set at the studio, and Kurt, we need you. So I went in uh, and I got in the baby Godzilla costume, and they had it right up in front of a window, and this window looked into a interior set. and I think it was Madison Square Garden, some control room or something. That's where we were supposed to be, and so they put me in the costume, and they're buttoning me up, and I said, "What am I doing?" And I said, "I don't know. They just told us to get you in the costume." And then next thing I see is the clapper going up in front of my face, and I hear action, and I just have no idea what to do, because normally they will certainly tell you, "Kurt, you're going to do this," but no one said anything to me. So they said action, and I just did the most vanilla thing I could do, because like I didn't want to break the glass, because I didn't know if I was supposed to break the glass. Would I damage the costume? So I just did this very generic vanilla kind of looking through the window, and trying to look curious. And then I cut, and then I heard someone say, "Oh, no one told him what to do." Like, oh, okay, Kurt, I want you to do. You're trying to get through the glass. You want to attack. You want to kill the person on the other side of the glass, which is very specific and which is very helpful, rather than not knowing anything. So the next take, I did exactly what that very clear direction was.
And so when it came to you breaking through anything, was there anything you had to do to like prepare to do that, or like were there any concerns to any possible safety?
Well, those, especially the mother and the baby Godzilla, those things were practically bulletproof. They were very well constructed and well made. The first night we shot, we had two baby Godzillas, me and Bruce, and we were in downtown Los Angeles, which was doubling for the exit to Madison Square Garden, and so Bruce and I were bolted to the ground, and we were supposed to punch our heads, like kind of like the top of the head of the baby Godzilla, through these windows of these doors, and so I was saying, so I'm supposed to go through this glass, and yep, and so they were installing the glass, and I said to the effects guy, I said, "So is this that special glass that breaks?" And he goes, "No." And so there were so on action, you hit that glass, and it you just bounce right off. You can't get through it, and so you hit it again, and you still don't go through it, and so they say cut, and then and they say, "Okay, no, you've really got to hit it." And so the next, like on the third take, like we just went for it and smash, and it's safety glass, and just shatters and goes everywhere. And but then so then like they got to reset, and that takes a while. They got to put in new glass, and then but I remember, I don't know, a few takes later, like they put in a piece of glass in front of me. I could not break it for the life of me. It was just pounding and pounding and it wouldn't break. And so it's been certainly a long time since we did it, but yeah, that breaking of the glass, I was a little concerned about, damaging the costume and the mechanics, but the head mechanic was there, and he was like, absolutely, yeah, we knew that in the script, like it had to do that. So this costume was built to do it. So, just go for it. So, so that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. And then speaking to, it being a long time ago, it has been 25 years since the film came out.
Yeah.
How do you look back at your time working on the film, and just, I guess, sort of the reputation this film has, and just what your overall thoughts on everything is?
Recently, in the last few years, I would say the movie's got a lot more love than it had in prior years. I've met a lot more people who kind of grew up with this Godzilla, in a way, and this was maybe their first, or one of their first exposures to Godzilla. So it's kind of this. The film has it's kind of gotten a little more love and likability to it than maybe it did in 1997, and I would definitely say that's the case.
Mm-hmm. And then, how do you feel about the fact that this film has become sort of like a cult film within certain niches of the community?
Yeah, I can't speak to that, but Victor, I guess you would know better than I. I guess I have met some people who tell me like this is a great Godzilla movie. I love this movie, and I suppose yes, absolutely. I have met them. I have met people who just absolutely love this movie. But when I think of a cult movie, I think of like Rocky Horror Picture Show or maybe Night of the Living Dead or something like that. But I think that this movie has carved out a little niche for itself of fans of monster movies and a fan of some Godzilla movies. So yes, I think that certainly is the case.
Mm-hmm. And then here we have some images of the suit 25 years later. And here's another one. And so, what are your thoughts on that? That they've survived?
Well, first of all, where'd you get these photographs?
These were from the, I believe, Sony account.
Okay.
On Instagram. I think they did a little feature and they showed these.
Right. Yeah, I can certainly. Yeah, these are got to be the lighting dummies, and or I'm assuming they're lighting dummies. But yeah, I can see on the left arm of Godzilla there, the foam latexes come apart and yellowed and or turned golden or orange there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be nice to run into these again someday. So thanks for showing those to me. I haven't seen those or thought of those guys in a long time.
Mm-hmm. And then here's the suit, just sleeping there.
That's the suit with me not in it. Yeah, I think I told you that I volunteered. I said I'd be happy to lie down in the suit because it was so comfortable. It was very comfortable to lie down in. But they said, no, we don't need you in the suit. And so I know the Marilee, the head of the seamstresses, she set that up for the camera.
Mm-hmm. And then it's always nice to hear whenever the suit actors can say that the suit was comfortable.
Yes,
you always hear the stories of like how the original suit actor would pass out like every few minutes just from the challenges of the suit.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then you've also said that you had the chance to meet the original suit actor.
Yes, many years ago, I went to I forget, maybe it was Monsterpalooza, and he was there, and it said he played the Smog Monster, and so I had to go over and tell him my story, and I told him, I know that my Godzilla movie is basically not known as being very good, but I wanted to give my respect and my props, and I watched you when I was a kid in that movie, and I really loved that movie, Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. So thank you. And he was very gracious.
Mm-hmm. And then, if there was another opportunity to do another monster movie, is there another monster you'd love to play, like from the Godzilla franchise?
You're going to have to help me with the name, but in one of the monster movies I remember watching as a kid, maybe in the theater or on TV, there was a little baby Godzilla. Do you know the name of that creature?
There are a few baby Godzillas in the franchise, surprisingly.
Okay.
The most well-known is probably Minya or Manila.
Okay. I I just, I was a little kid, and I thought that was really great. That little baby, I guess you'd call it like a baby Godzilla. I always like Gamera,
Mm.
but Gamera might be hard to do. Gamera might be the flying part might be hard to do. But also the three-headed dragon, I thought
Mm.
was very scary. Yeah, that would be fun. But you need a couple other people to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet the Ghidorah actors who were there from the new movies?
Yes, I did. We did a panel on Sunday, and one of the Ghidorah actors was not available to be there, but two of them were, and then
Mm.
also the guy who played Godzilla. So yeah, we did a panel, had a good time. So it was very interesting to hear their stories about how they came up with the motion capture aspect of their characters for the movie.
Hmm. And so when it came to meeting the new Godzilla from the new movies, do you two have like a camaraderie with being like the American Godzillas?
Um, I said, well, first of all, they were all very, very nice guys and very generous, and we got along very well, especially during the uh, panel that we were doing. Um, we did not talk about any kind of camaraderie, but I think there's maybe some unspoken thing
Hmm.
because, playing Godzilla is kind of a unique thing, and it's there's a certainly here in the United States there's a very small group of people who've worked on it, and so in that respect, there's a bit of a camaraderie. Yes.
Hmm. That's glad to hear. I had a chance of meeting the both of you at the event, and it was
Right.
stellar to see because you two are going to be the closest I've ever gotten to saying I met Godzilla,
Right. Right.
and
Yes.
especially with you, like you know you were my Godzilla, and so
Okay.
meeting you is like a profound honor in a sense,
Oh, well.
great sense.
Well, that's very kind of you, Victor. Thank you.
And just a big thank you again for all the opportunities to get to see you, and a big thank you for the work you did on the film.
Oh, well, hey, Victor, you're welcome. Thank you very much. That's so nice of you to say that. Thank you. I had a great time working on it. It was a lot of fun. What a great learning experience, and I get to meet great people like yourself too.
Hmm. And then I guess in the same way where you saw Nakajima and the Godzilla suit, which was one of your inspirations, you are one of my inspirations to work in the industry and hopefully one day, do my own, thing.
Okay, great, great. Well, maybe one day you will hire me.
Yep. Hopefully one day.
Yeah.
But I guess we're about done with the interview and had a great time. So I guess we'll just finish up the broadcast right now.
Okay.
And then I just want to say sorry to the viewers for the echo that may appear on their end with me, because I think your audio was fine. So just in case, sorry about the bad audio on my end for the viewers. And so thank you everyone for coming. Leave any more suggestions or video ideas you want to see in the future. And then before we go, Kurt, is there anything you want to, I guess, shout out or say in regards to anything going on in your life or anything at all?
Well, I have some movies coming out, but I can't talk about that because we're on strike.
Yeah.
And I have a very, very small Instagram footprint. I think it's Kurt Carley 3000 on Instagram. I should be posting more photographs, behind the scenes stuff of Godzilla that I have that may or may not have made it out to the internet. But and I'll be doing a couple conventions in a couple months. I'll be going to Wayne, New Jersey in September, and also Canada, I think, after that, up in Windsor, Ontario. And hopefully some more shows around the country where Godzilla fans, I could, meet some Godzilla fans from around the country, because most of my convention work has been centered in Southern California for the most part.
And so, there you go, everyone. Go get your chance to meet them. Meet a bona fide Godzilla. And so, again, thank you everyone for coming. And we're going to be heading out. So, goodbye. And until next time.
Thanks, everybody.